I call this meeting to order. Would you please stand and follow along with the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, can we get a roll call, please?
Fenton. Denham.
Here.
Cooper.
Here.
Milton.
Here.
Rodriguez. Howden.
Here.
LeBlanc.
Here.
Your Honor, we have a quorum. And just to note that Alderman Denham is via Zoom.
Great, thank you. Well, tonight we're going to have a discussion regarding negotiation of the Branson Lakes Area Chamber of Commerce and Convention Visitors Bureau contract for tourism and marketing services. Could we start with, where's Jason? Oh, hi, Jason. Can we start with Christmas? Creative.
Will this click through, or do you need to do it?
No, it will. Yeah, I think it's down.
I've never seen them like this. Okay, good evening, everyone. Want to show you, with the help of the Marketing Oversight Committee and input that's been received from this board, as well as Ozark Mountain Christmas Committee. I believe that a lot of them attended the September 30th MOC meeting. I was unable to be present at that one, but we were able to put together some new Christmas creative that includes Ozark Mountain Christmas. Tonight we've got, I'll show you the digital. The commercial, we'll have to show the commercial next time because the commercial was not color-coded and it still was not the actual voiceover. It was somebody in Proof's office that did the voice, so we can show the actual commercial next time. But I believe that it was showed at the MOC, so everybody that was at MOC had a chance to see the actual commercial itself. It's on the 30-second commercial, but we'll show the digital tonight. So here, I'm sorry. So here we have, starting off with, for those that aren't aware, the campaign that we're currently running for this destination is Your Vacation Needs Branson. So you'll see here in our digital overlays, you've got the voice of vacation. So each of these have a different tone. I'm not going to read all of this out, but I'll read the first one here. Let's make memories that'll last longer than Aunt Edna's fruitcake, vacation. And I don't need glasses yet, but I'm getting pretty close because that is, let me see if I can read this. Is your vacation getting enough Christmas magic? Branson has a bag full of excitement that'll keep your vacation on the nice list, from special holiday performance by local artists to meeting Santa himself. Your vacation will follow Lala Love at an Ozark Mountain Christmas in Branson. Plan your trip at explorebranson.com. So what you'll see here in each of the three, it's got the same body copy, and then at the top, vacation has three different statements that is being showed. And this one, Rachel, which one is this? Okay, so the first one is family fun.
Jason, excuse me, would you take a minute and just read those so the people listening online?
Oh, yeah, yep. Okay, so again, the body copy on all three will be the same, but I will read the three overhead statements. Kids need more excitement than teaching grandma how to use the internet, vacation. And I know where we can find everything you mentioned in your letter to Santa, vacation. And then again, each of the body copy is the same, which is where we get into in mentioning falling in love with an Ozark Mountain Christmas in Branson. This one is outdoor recreation. So there's three of them. I prefer my ice skating for not scraping off the windshield, vacation. And it says, get your vacation into the Christmas spirit with magical festivals and endless outdoor trails where you'll find 6.5 million twinkling lights, 1,000 decorated Christmas trees, 3 lakes for fishing, and a partridge in a pear tree. Your vacation deserves an Ozark Mountain Christmas in Branson. Learn more at explorebranson.com. And I know in the small print it says something about partridge in a pear tree is not guaranteed. And then, again, same body copy in each of the three, but the other two vacation statements. I want to bask in a million Christmas lights without having to test a single one, vacation. And skip the emergency room. I'll hang the Christmas lights this year, vacation. And then this is the live shows. I need front row Christmas spectacular, not back of the line shopping nightmare, vacation. And the body copy says, your vacation needs more than a few boughs of holly this Christmas. Branson is a winter wonderland of excitement, filled with jolly festivals, show-stopping holiday performances, and even an express train ride to the North Pole. This year, give your vacation the gift of an Ozark Mountain Christmas. Discover more at explorebranson.com. Again, same body in all three of the advertisements, but the voice of vacation says, this year I want a Christmas pageant with some actual pageantry, vacation. And let's give grandma's scratchy Christmas records a rest this year, vacation. And again, this is for the live shows, digital advertising, digital print. These, what is this, Rachel? Just imagery? Okay, so we'll go to the next one. So here you'll see some of the applications that will be on Facebook, Pinterest, and TripAdvisor. Again, the headline, give your vacation a real holiday. The body, with amazing gardens of light, live Christmas shows, and festivities for the whole family, your vacation needs an Ozark Mountain Christmas in Branson. And then, that was the TripAdvisor one. And for Facebook, the headline will be, give your vacation a real gift, and the body will say, celebrate the joy of an Ozark Mountain Christmas in Branson. This is just some more imagery. And that's what we have. And again, we'll be more than willing to come back when the official commercial is done, the 30-second commercial, and we can come back and show that. And as well, this creative will be, once it's all finalized, will be uploaded in the Explore Branson portal as well, that the community that has logged into can log in and see the creative as well.
Any questions, comments from anybody in the audience? Nope. Anybody on the board? Thank you, Jason.
Yeah. No, and thank you for being patient with us. I know we had to go back to proof and work on getting it worked out, but I think it worked out well, and I'm excited with where it's headed.
Oh, yes, Sue.
Do I need to do this like I do with city council, who I am and where I'm from and
Nah. We know
blood
who you
type?
are.
Okay.
Blood type, we need to know your blood type.
You want-
My question is, on all of the digital that we were just shown, we weren't shown the 30-second commercials, but there is no timeline for when Ozark Mountain Christmas is. Now, we made a declaration last year, almost a year ago now, that Ozark Mountain Christmas was November 1st to January 7th. I would like to know how any of these commercials that we just saw up here show that timeline.
It's a fair question.
Well, so my answer to that is usually in destination marketing, you don't put timelines. I mean, when you're promoting a specific product, you can put a timeline in it, but we promote a time of year, not an actual date. But what I will tell the group is we have talked internally, and I know that next year, because I know there was a discussion about when we start promoting Christmas and that we're doing it too late. So we've had discussion internally, and we have talked next year, the digital side of the promoting of Christmas, we will start earlier. I think we had talked about starting it around the beginning of October instead of the end of October. We still, in this, we can talk about this with the MOC, but we still would like the Christmas commercials to wait until the end of October because we are still promoting the fall season. So we can have some cross of promoting fall and Christmas season digitally at the beginning of October, but the commercials, we would rather wait. But again, that's open for discussion with the MOC when we have that discussion. But again, I mean, it's my professional opinion. Typically, destination marketing, you don't actually show dates. That's when you're actually representing a specific product. We're promoting an entire season. It is on our website. I mean, we can put let me rephrase that. I will make sure that the dates are on our website if they're not already. I don't want to say they are because I can't guarantee that. But if they're not, I will make sure that they are on our website, since we do push everybody to explorebranson.com.
And our season is unique. I mean, throughout the country, people don't
Right.
realize that we do start November 1st.
Right, right. Yeah, and I'll make sure if it's not already, it is on. Okay, so the dates are on the website according to Rachel, but we'll make sure that, and then like I said, we'll have the further discussion with MOC for 23 about time schedules on how we'll present this.
Thank you. Michael?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
really quickly before Michael speaks. So I think that would be another reason why I would think that the dates should be on there, starting in late October. Starting in early October is, I guess it's a compromise, but there's a lot of us who would like to see it even started before that. We've done the Christmas in July campaign. That's why we say come back for Ozark Mountain Christmas. I mean, you have to think about what they're going to see when they actually get to Branson. So let's say we're promoting fall. They get here, it's November 1st. I mean, the trees are already up. So they're going to experience a Christmas in Branson right when they get here. That's why I would, and another thing about that is we're all about expanding our season. We've already had commitments on the Ozark Mountain Christmas Committee of businesses that want to stay open until January 7th. But in order to have buy-in, we need to advertise that and let people know that it lasts until January 7th.
Thank you.
Hi, Michael London. I'm publishing a magazine that goes out to the tour operators in the U.S. and Canada for 27 years. And among those activities I've probably seen more shows than any person in the town other than the people who work in the theaters. And the reason I came up right now is because I believe that this meeting ought to have genuineness about it and truthfulness about it. And the first statement that came out of the gentleman preceding was that there was input from the community when the Christmas creative was displayed for the very first time here just in September, 10 days ago or so. The way that the MOC meeting works is that the only people that are allowed to speak are the people who are on the MOC committee. Other people can go to the meeting, but they can only listen. The same is true, they can go to the meeting online, but they cannot speak or give any opinion whatsoever unless they're called on. Now, the way that this particular situation occurred for our Christmas creative this year was that originally the Christmas creative was scheduled to be in front of the city by July of this year. It was actually scheduled to happen. And there was some reason why it couldn't happen. And it was going to be the next meeting. The next meeting, it didn't happen. And then it was scheduled again, and it didn't happen. And then it was scheduled again, and it didn't happen. Finally, 10 days ago or so, we had that meeting. No one was allowed to make any comments at all from the general public. No one. And then, before anybody was able to make a comment, the creative was voted upon by the MOC and approved, as is. And then, for the very first time, after it was already approved, the members of the community that were at the meeting or online were able to give their opinion or comment about it. The first comment was about the dates. Well, it's too late, you know, we can't do that. And more importantly, there were other things that could have been generated, ideas that could have been generated from the community, but the plan had already been approved. It was done. And it was done because of the way that the whole system is set up to exclude community input. They don't want, the chamber does not appear, the CVB does not appear to want input. Because tonight they said they got input from the Ozark Mountain Christmas Committee about the creative. They not only didn't get input, there have been meetings since the city created the resolution in which they said they wanted Ozark Mountain Christmas to be the official name, and they wanted it to celebrate the faith and the family and the, fun. There's been meetings held by that Ozark Mountain Christmas Committee. Not a single time did a CVB representative go to any of those meetings. Not once. So this idea that this plan here has been a community-involved process is false. And yet that's the opening remark that was given and would have stood to be true unless somebody was willing to get up and speak to the contrary. Now, had I been having the opportunity to participate and give input into the presentation, when it still mattered and it could have changed something, I would have said that I've been going to Christmas shows for 27 years. And I do not have the sense at all from looking at this creative that it represents what we have on our stages for Christmas in the most important way. When I get to see the "O Come All Ye Faithful" is probably the song that most resonates and makes the hair on my arm stand up. Although "O Holy Night" is also a tremendous opportunity for people to have emotions and bond. Our resolution calls for faith to be part of the Ozark Mountain Christmas experience and marketing, and there is nothing in the creative at all that in any way even hints at the idea of the true meaning of Christmas. Now, you could argue whether that's important or not. But the reason that this entity has been given the marketing funds originally was so that community people, members of the community, could have input. We couldn't have input because they never came to a meeting. They put out the materials late, and they put them out already voted on and approved. And even when the corrections or additions that we thought were important were voiced, we were told that it was too late. Couldn't be done. So I think it's a bunch of hogwash what this gentleman just represented. And I think that the board ought to take into consideration that the reason we chose him was so that there could be community input. And there definitely has not been in this matter.
Thank you, Michael.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
you know, it kind of speaks to the crux of this entire issue. We heard from Jason about expertise when it comes to destination marketing. My question would be, what happens when the community's beliefs and the way they vote and what they put forward contradicts with a professional opinion on expertise of destination marketing? Because you can come in and you can say, well, this works in other markets or this is how they're doing it. But then our citizens stand up and say, through their votes, through their actions, we want to go in a more traditional Branson direction. What happens when those two conflict? And I've never seen in my involvement in Branson politics a time where the citizen's opinion has been able to win out over that so-called expertise. I'm not saying it's not borne out in, again, professional expertise. I think that could possibly work in other areas. But Branson is a unique animal, and our citizens have a certain point of view that doesn't always conflict with what I call the justifying of marketing degrees from other places.
Thank you, Gary.
I was at that meeting that was referred to, and it is true that the public didn't get to speak until the end. But what is also true is they followed their agenda. You folks have an agenda, and things go in a certain order, and that's the way it is. I saw the Christmas commercials. I must admit, I am probably not very impressed with the Christmas commercials, but that's me. And however, my understanding is we're here tonight to talk about their contract. And today I did a lot of research in various areas, and I talked to different people. And I'd like to share something with you. I got to kind of read this, and I didn't have too much time to go over it, so here we go. According to USInflationCalculator.com, $1 in 2019 is equivalent to the purchasing power of about $1.16 today, an increase of 16% over 3 years. Now, how effective is our marketing? I don't know, but what I can do is I can suggest this, pretty simple to determine. Multiply the 2019 record-breaking city tax revenues. That's record-breaking city tax revenues. And I hope we can all agree that those tax revenues come from businesses located within the geographical limits of Branson. That's just one thing. Multiply it, add the 16% to it. So if it was $1, add 16 cents to it, it's $1.16. Take the total revenues for 2021, subtract that. If it's less, then the wheel might need some tweaking. But if it's more, how much tweaking do we want to do? And my question is, why are we here tonight? If in fact it's less revenue and we have to adjust the way our marketing funds are spent overall, that's fine. If it's only because of Ozark Mountain Christmas, let's put that as an issue. And I personally, it's a hill I'm willing to die on, but let's keep it in perspective. Maybe I don't want to die after all, of keeping it in perspective. But to me, Ozark Mountain Christmas is pretty important. I believe a large part of our revenue comes from it. And the things that Michael pointed out have a lot of credibility with me. However, what doesn't have credibility with me is attacking people that come up here, attacking Jason, Rachel. I don't know Jason well, but I do know Rachel. And I trust her, and I know the anguish she goes through trying to do her job and do a great job. If we can get this Ozark Mountain Christmas thing resolved, which is really the fourth quarter, the first 3 quarters, fine. Well, Mike, it isn't really fine, is it? Do you have a quarter you have a problem in? Yeah, you shake it and said yes for those of you that are listening. But
What was the question, Gary? Did you ask Michael?
yeah, do you have a problem with any quarter in the year? And you've got a problem with the first quarter. But if the marketing plan is working, let's tweak that plan to take care of the first quarter, and let's tweak it to take care of the things that we need for Ozark Mountain Christmas. And I, to myself, well, we have people here for the summer. And obviously our marketing is bringing them in. It's very successful. Why aren't we giving those people information about returning for Ozark Mountain Christmas? It's the easiest marketing we're ever going to have. They're already here. Give it to them. Isn't there some way we can amicably work out this Ozark Mountain Christmas and take care of the few administrative things that we have for the contract, particularly if, and I don't know because I haven't seen the figures, but if we're generating more in tax revenues in 2021 and 2022, I would beg you, let's tweak this out, get it worked out, and work out the Ozark Mountain Christmas. Yes, we should be doing it earlier, and we've got an Ozark Mountain Christmas committee that we should be relying on. We should be getting their input, but I think all that can be worked out. If they'll be flexible and work with me, I'm sure they'll work with you big guys.
Gary?
Yes, sir.
Up.
There-
So,
Oh, all right, let's get together now, guys. The curtain's going
did you have a
down.
question for Gary?
Yeah. Gary,
Yep.
I could say there's been at least 10 or a dozen times that Michael has stood at that podium right there
I've been at a lot of them.
and showed a lot more issues than Ozark Mountain Christmas. And there have been issues with the website. There have been issues putting schedules of our shows on the website. And there will be little tweaks that happen after that. But there are broad-basing issues that never get addressed. I don't think it's only about Ozark Mountain Christmas, my friend.
Okay, I'm not saying it's only about Ozark Mountain Christmas, but if you've got,
Oh, excuse me, Gary.
the tax
Is
revenues
Steve
tell
okay?
the story.
Okay, go ahead.
The tax revenues tell us, I mean, we didn't hire them for Ozark Mountain Christmas. The CVB was not hired to market Ozark Mountain Christmas. They were hired to market Branson. And folks, if you look at and I'm saying if, you folks have access to those records, I don't. But if our revenues are better than they were in 2019, including inflation, then I would respectfully suggest that in the majority they're doing their job. And yeah, let's work on Ozark Mountain Christmas. Now, if we're saying they're not doing jobs for a particular industry, then that's an entirely different situation. My question there would be, if the rest of the revenues are up for the rest of the city, why aren't they up for those industries? But, what do I?
Thank you, Gary.
Yep.
What I'd like to do is Jason, would you come to the podium? What I want to do is talk about Ozark Mountain Christmas. That will be a part of our contract because we are here to discuss the contract, and I want to get into that discussion so we can get through that. Jason, last October, the board approved a resolution for Ozark Mountain Christmas in our community. And not to go back and read it, but as I recall, it was to prominently promote Ozark Mountain Christmas citywide. And then at last month's TCED meeting, afterwards, I was talking to Rachel, and Rachel had mentioned that there was not going to be any Ozark Mountain Christmas in this season. And when I asked why, she said that it was timing because the scripts and the shots and everything had already been produced, basically. Would you share with this board what your opinion is of the resolution this board made regarding Ozark Mountain Christmas?
Yeah, I mean, for me, a resolution is essentially a local, I can't say ordinance, it's not an ordinance, but a local resolution recognizing an occurrence, just like when you guys do a resolution for, Shoji, or you do a resolution for, I mean, they're all resolutions. It's honoring something that, has happened, something that is occurring. So in this instance, it's the honoring of, a Christmas season locally. So I want to make it very clear in this matter that the CVB sits with 11 people on a marketing oversight committee that is appointed by this board, by Indian Point, by Taney County to make these decisions. It's not the CVB standing before these individuals and saying, we will not do this, and then all 11 go, oh, we'll just bow down and believe what you say. These are discussions that have take place. So it's extremely unfair that this organization keeps taking the brunt when we do have a public marketing oversight committee that sits with us every month and goes through the marketing plan, goes through the advertising, goes through the creative. It is a community group that puts this together. I will disagree, and I am not here to argue, and this will be the last thing that I will say, and then we need to talk about this contract. I will disagree with this man that continues to belittle this organization. If he wants the power and you guys believe that we are not doing it right, please give Michael London the $3 million that you can't pay him with to market this city the way that he would like it to be done. Because everything we do, everything that we can show you, sales tax is up, tourism tax is up, visitation is actually flat over 21. That's the one thing that I'm disappointed in, is that we're flat over 21. Website visitations are up. The theaters are up 9% in tax collections. We just learned today that the PR firm that you all don't even pay for, it's paid for by the TCD, has booked 60 shows with major networks in our major markets to help promote the show community. 60. Normally it's 12, 60. So this continued discussion is unwarranted. We are here tonight to talk about the future. Do we continue with this contract? And we just have some clarifying questions. All I wanted to know, and it didn't need to be done in this setting, all I wanted to know was, could you please clarify for us what the term city means? Does it mean you don't want us to market Silver Dollar City? Does it mean you don't want us to market Shepherd of the Hills because they reside outside the city limits? We just had some clarifying questions before we signed it. And now here we are with people being invited to sit here and belittle our organization when we've done nothing but grow tourism even well before I got here. Tourism numbers have grown and grown and grown, but yet we continue to be told we don't know what we're doing. So I question the city back. Do you even want to offer us the contract? And if not, why are we sitting here tonight and having this discussion?
Well, our clear intention was to discuss the contract and move this forward. I'll take responsibility for asking for public comment, so for the rest of this meeting, I'm going to refrain from any public comment and just have this discussion on the contract. I'm still not clear, and when you said the city made, quote, just a resolution, in my opinion, the board's opinion, it was clear that the city was making it real clear that this is the desire that the city wants. And with you managing the tourism tax funds, not hearing that, just ignoring that message that came from the board of how important it was, I just wanted to see if we were where the miscommunication was.
Yeah, and Mayor, I'll be honest with you. I think the miscommunication is just how resolutions are looked at. I don't think there was any sense in our office, there really wasn't even much of a discussion with the MOC that because this resolution was made, that it had to be added into the creative. It was an applauding of making the resolution that this is going to be the Christmas time of year. But I think I don't think that we realized it as the intent was that we were to take marketing to another level of adding November 1 to January 7th, and that it had to be mandated. We took it as it was a local resolution, just like when we recognized, Shoji Day with that. So again, miscommunication. I think next year we have better planning and we have better conversation about it. But it was not, again, it was not just our organization. We sit with the MLC and have these conversations, and it was not a discussion amongst the 11 members as well as our organization.
I think the resolution was pretty clear that it was important to us. I mean, to not notice that is.
That's not what I'm saying.
That's mind-boggling.
Alderman Cooper, what I'm saying is in the world of destination marketing, a resolution usually is a local statement. It's not usually something you put out and broadcast across the national community. And I think that's why the marketing individuals did not look at it as something that needed to be added into the creative. We recognize the resolution, but what I'm saying is it's not usually something you put into a marketing campaign. The campaign is Your Vacation Needs Branson.
Okay, so one of the reasons I'm bringing it up is I'm going to ask for Ozark Mountain Christmas specifically to be put in the contract.
Okay.
Because I know one of your comments was you are not contractually obligated.
That was taken out of context.
I just read the statement.
Yeah, read the whole statement, Mayor. The context that was written was we were not obligated because if you remember at that time, what we were being accused of was only marketing America's Christmas Tree City. My email stated that we were not contractually obligated to promote either America's Christmas Tree City or Ozark Mountain Christmas.
That's what it said. Yeah.
Right, I'm telling you, right. But to sit here and make an out of context statement that I said we were not going to promote Ozark Mountain Christmas is not accurate. You have to read the entire context.
Okay.
I was talking about both America's Christmas Tree City and Ozark Mountain Christmas.
So your statement was, I am not contractually obligated to market Ozark Mountain Christmas or America's Christmas Tree City.
Correct.
Is that out of context?
No, that's correct.
Okay. So you made the statement, you're not contractually obligated to market Ozark Mountain Christmas. This board, and if there was a miscommunication, this board clearly wanted Ozark Mountain Christmas not just marketed. We wanted it prominently displayed. and I believe the resolution said anywhere and everywhere possible. And so it did feel like the board said, this is our desires, and the response back was, well, we really don't care, we're going to keep doing what we're doing, is how it felt. So there is a place in the contract, I'd like to add that, so then the CVB will be contractually obligated to market it.
And obviously, we have no problem doing it. We added it to the Christmas Creative this year.
It wasn't prominently marketed, right? I went to the website, I've been on the website, there's 4 or 5 places where it's mentioned, Ozark Mountain Christmas is mentioned in the body of a paragraph. But there's no heading, there's no flash, there's no Ozark Mountain Christmas, come look at me. It's mentioned a few times. So it didn't feel good to the board.
Yeah. We'll get with the Marketing Oversight Committee and have that plan ready for next year.
Okay, so we can go through the contract a couple different ways. My suggestion would be to put up the red line version, the version of our existing contract, what the red line changes are, and let you address the differences that you wanted to address. Unless you wanted to do a different way, Jason.
We just have, in our opinion, we just have 6 questions that we'd like to get clarified for tonight. And then
Ask.
once we have those clarified, then our legal can clean up the other things that we have.
Is Jim Meadows online? Jim, you there?
All right, Jim, I've unmuted you.
Yes, Mayor, I'm here. Can you hear me, sir?
Yep, thank you. Go ahead, Jason.
So the number one was, we just want clarification on the city and the geographical limits, and just making sure that that includes that we are not to market Silver Dollar City, Shepherd of the Hills, and those things that reside outside the
Chad,
city.
would you pull up the map that I asked for? I want to, if you enlarge that, please. Let's clarify this. The area that's shaded in yellow is the city limits of Branson. The area shaded in green is, well, the areas in green and yellow represents the district, the TCD district, okay? So your question is where we want to see the tourism tax marketed is in the yellow within the city limits.
Okay.
And I don't want to jump ahead. You asked specifically a very good question. Are you saying, city, that you don't want us to market Silver Dollar City? Is that one of your questions?
Correct,
Okay.
yes.
I don't know how to respond to that.
Well, Mayor,
Yes.
Mayor, this is Mr. Meadows. Can you hear
Yes.
me?
Yep.
And one thing I do want to throw in for Jason, I think one key that he needs to realize we're talking about here is this contract is not saying what you do with the revenues generated in Indian Point or in those green shaded areas. It's saying what you do with the revenues generated within the city of Branson. You've got a bucket of money, $3 million from the city. You've also got a bucket of money that comes from the rest of the district. The district is not trying to tell the CVB what it can do with the dollars from the other areas,
Right.
just what it can do with the city's dollars. Mayor, am I stating that the way you and I discussed on that?
Yes, in fact. So, Jason, if we were talking about one bucket of marketing dollars, it would be absurd to say, let's not market Silver Dollars. They're the number,
understand
they
that,
are
yeah.
the number one driver,
Right,
no question.
right.
But there's a $10 million bucket called TCED and a
Right.
$3 million bucket for tourism tax. I think Silver Dollar, I won't take the time, but in a nutshell, Silver Dollar City is a blessing for our entire area.
Right.
And if anybody disagrees with that, I'll take exception to it. They clearly need to be marketed. But I believe there's enough money in the $10 million in the district to market Silver Dollar City, which is in the district. Unless we're spending more than $10 million to market Silver Dollar City.
No. I think, and let me clarify. So if you recognize on how the advertising is done, so I wish I had a commercial to show. If you look at the commercial, like our attraction, our family fun commercial, you'll see in the commercial, it might be roller coaster, it might be Ferris wheel, and zip line down at Branson Landing. So it's taking a piece. I guess what we're asking is, would we be able to keep that commercial if it meant for the city that we then just take the budget, the invoicing component of it and say, okay, of this 30-second, commercial, 10 seconds was, the Ferris wheel and zip line, so that's going to be city. The other 15 seconds or the other 20 seconds is Silver Dollar City and something. So then we build that to the TCD. Instead of going back and starting from scratch, all new creative, so that one of the commercials is just, showing stuff inside the city. And if that, and sorry, just one more.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then we also would need, whether it's Ms. Westfall, whether it's James, we would need somebody to identify to us, because I think we've also been told originally that tourism tax dollars can't pay for creative, which is why TCD typically pays for the creative. So I think we would need some clarification on that. We're just trying to figure out how to make this work. So like if it would be up to if it's okay with the board, like if we still had that commercial, but we divvied out on our invoices, this portion would be city, because that's, that percentage of the commercial was for the city. This part could be TCD.
I think if that's the way you would choose to do it, I don't know that there are any issues with that. I don't, and Jim, this probably isn't a fair question. I don't know if it's been asked. But in our tourism tax language, I believe it prevents us from administrative, but I don't think it says we can't do creative.
And that might have just been something we've been
Jim,
told.
do you know the answer to that?
I think we've been learning a lot of stuff, that there was stuff told from previous people that don't quite relate to what the actual law is.
So I would like it if the tourism tax language was clearer. It is clear that it says we cannot pay for administrative. The question is whether or not we treat the creative portion of that as administrative or not. So here's what I can say for sure. If it was in-house creative work being done by the CVB, technically that would be administrative and part of its overhead, and we couldn't. But if we're paying for an ad campaign from an outside vendor, that probably can fit within the definition of what the city can pay for. I'd have to look at it specifically in greater detail. But for example, we contract with, X agency to develop and plan a selling schedule for this ad. That's a different story, because you're not paying for administrative there. You're using it to purchase a product. When the tax was developed and voted on, for whatever reason, and I don't really know the reasoning for it, they put the kicker in it that the city's money could only be used for actual purchasing, not for administrative costs of the project. Well, here you'd actually be purchasing a service, that service from the advertising agency. So we can make a solid argument, and I'd have to, give you a firm legal opinion 100% to be sure. But generally, I think we'd be on good footing if you were paying an outside vendor for that work.
Okay, and I pulled up part of the statute I was just trying to understand this myself. Not trying to take your job, Jim.
Nope, that's fine.
Statute says 25% of the taxes collected shall be deposited into a tourism promotion account within the tourism tax trust fund, and shall be used upon appropriation by the municipality for tourism marketing and promotional purposes. So I still wouldn't want to get a legal opinion, but.
Yeah, and
So-
I think that where we were, just because previously we were always told, again, previous employees, that it was to be used for marketing only, and for some reason they weren't. I mean, you have to do creative to do marketing. So for
That's
some
right.
reason there was like, you can't use it for creative, but it's for marketing. So if we can just get that cleared up, then that would, I think we've got ideas on how we can definitely make this work, and which is again why we just wanted to get a clarification on what exactly you were saying within those geographical
Okay,
boundaries.
and when we're talking about marketing the shows and attractions, we can do what you're saying about some of the pieces of how you currently have it put together.
Right.
But I also like you to think about if we did our own creative and had some promotions of things to do in Branson. And on the attraction side, to have just in the commercial, the aquarium, Fritz Adventure, Wonderworks, Beyond the Lens, the Ferris wheel, world's largest toy museum, Whitewater, right?
Yeah.
These are all the things to do in Branson.
Yeah.
So we have all the shows, we have all the attractions, but these are things that are within the city limits of Branson.
It's not any different than the show commercial that we have. That is all the shows that are inside of Branson.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was your number one question?
That was number one. We just
Okay.
wanted clarification. You good? Okay. The second one was, and I think I had asked this previously, and this is just because we are also looking at, looking at the length of the term of the contract. We're in discussions right now with the TCD of going back to a 5-year term. It used to be 5 years. I think around COVID, it became a 3-year just because of everything that happened at that time. Just a discussion on if we could go back to a 5-year term, because as we're working with our vendors, 5 years is more stability with working with our, like Proof and the different companies that we work with. 5 years is more stability than 3.
Understand the benefit of having longevity in an agreement like this. I would have to defer to Lisa or Jim. I believe most of our contracts, when the city signs a 5-year agreement, it has to be renewed annually.
Right, which I think is what we do now, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if we're saying the same. If it's
Well, yeah, right now it's being proposed as 3 years with, annual 1-year rollovers. We're saying, can it be 5 years with annual 1-year rollovers?
Lisa?
That would be agreement by the board, and it's annual renewals upon approval of the board.
Right, correct,
So, so the term can be 5, if that's up to the board.
Marshall?
Yeah, to kind
Ralph?
of add some detail to what Lisa's saying. Missouri state law does not allow one board to obligate the next board to any actions. So while this board could sign a 5-year contract, it has to have an annual vote of renewal or appropriation to carry it. Technically, the way the state law is set up, if we set up a multi-year contract, each year the board has to agree essentially to re-up into that framework. I could get into the details on why, but
We got it.
No, yeah, I think we're in agreement on that.
We're
yeah,
good.
Yeah. So it would
You
just
can
be
tell
up
our
to the,
attorney gets paid by the hour. Just kidding, Jim.
yeah, so it would just, I guess it would be up to you guys if you want to do
Okay.
5 instead of 3. Let's see.
Your Honor, another caveat to that is I'm sure there's a clause, so the board can always get out of those contracts also. So if you don't always have to, obligate for 5 years.
It's really a 1-year obligation.
That's
Yeah.
right. So
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
okay.
basically what that just would prevent. My understanding is what that would prevent is instead of going out to, which we've talked about not going out to bid this year, it would just mean that going out to bid would be in 5 years as long as you guys are renewing us annually. And to Lisa's point, there is a clause in the contract. I believe it is a written statement of 30 days. If we're not performing as the board has agreed upon with our KPIs, there's a 30-day written where they can get out of the contract. Good? Okay.
Yep.
Sorry, just running through these real quick.
This number 3?
This is number 3. Now, in all honesty, the rest of this is it's more just cleaning up language. Like there's talking in here, the concept, the contract currently states, that we will pay all the expenses in advance and then seek reimbursement. It just from a cleaning up the contract standpoint, for what happens is we run it through our accounting system, we cut the checks, we hold the checks until we send it over to the city reimburses, then we mail the checks. We actually do not have an operating account large enough to where we would pay everything in advance and wait for reimbursement. So this is just a cleaning up thing. We cut the checks, we hold the checks, we mail them to the city mails back reimbursement, we take the reimbursement, then we mail out payments to the vendors.
I understand that. Did you have something, that's always been in the contract, right?
No, I know. The way that it's stated in the contract is that we would actually physically make the payment.
Isn't that in our current contract
It's in the current
today?
contract, yeah.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. Some of this is just cleanup.
okay.
Because that's not the current process. The current process is we do
Sure.
cut the checks, we hold them, we receive payment from you, then we mail the checks.
So we'll just have the contract say what we do? I mean, what the.
Yeah,
what process?
I'm a stickler to clean contracts, and that's just not the accurate.
You're not wanting to change, you just want it to be more specific.
I want it to be how the actual process is. Yeah, I'm not asking for change on it.
Okay.
I would just want it to be detailed out to where it shows what the actual policy is, which is and I guess we'd have to ask James how exactly we do that language. But again, we do cut the checks. We mail a copy of the check, a copy of the invoice to the city. They approve it. You guys send back payment. Then we mail the checks out to the vendor. We just don't have an operating account that we could pay that and wait for reimbursement.
Sure.
So Jason, I understand what you're saying about that. We did not put that in the current contract that way, and I apologize. I did not realize that was the process. We can phrase that in a particular way that you will be in. I've got a couple ideas and I can play with that, or the council you work with can propose back, but that's easily something we can fix in there. I just didn't realize that was the process.
Yeah, no, and James, just so you know, that's this contract as well as the TCD contract they're almost still the same contracts they've been for 20 years. In fact, the TCD contract talks about paper clips and like mailing stuff. So I mean, I'm joking, not paper clips, but it's very old language, and so there just needs to be current with the procedures. So the number 4 would be just a discussion so we can better understand when you talk about essentially who would our point person be. So it's currently written city administrator, board of aldermen, or designated individual, and it even at one point says designated individual from time to time, which means that it could be multiple individuals. Preferably, obviously, we would rather have one point person, even if it is an alderman or, I don't know, I just want to have that discussion so that we're clear on how you see that happening. And this might not even necessarily be a language change, it might just be more of so we can understand it.
My understanding has been city administrator is appointed by the board to be this contact person.
Right.
But it's the board's decision of who we want to be the contact person. So I believe the language says it will be the city administrator or somebody else appointed by the board of aldermen. Is that?
Right, yeah, it says, or designated individual.
Or somebody designated.
I think the one that is kind of catching us is the time to time, like
When it says of time to time.
every month it could, you could appoint somebody different to be the point of contact, and that could be a little difficult.
We could appoint somebody once a week, and that would keep.
Lunch
me on
and
the
dinner,
toes.
you could,
Then we would say, well, there might have been a miscommunication. So, I don't know what the legal language says. I mean, I know what the intent is.
yeah. And again, it's more of, I think, more of a clarification. We're not, my notes, we don't even necessarily have it.
So Jason,
Okay, sorry. Hey, James, sorry, real quick. So just so you know, our legal said, could the board officially like appoint someone, almost like when you appoint somebody to planning and zoning and stuff like that, could you guys appoint somebody instead of it being
We can
flex.
easily put that in as the language. That was the intent. That way the city could use whoever is best in its team to make that from time to time.
Okay.
For example, sometimes the city administrator might have interest and skills in that area. Other times it might be someone else with the city. It might be a member of the board, or it might be a member of the city team, but it would be, we could easily do it as someone officially designated by the city, even on an annual basis, so you know who you were working with. The idea was just giving flexibility as the city team changes.
But it wouldn't necessarily have to be somebody at the city, right? I mean, if we wanted to appoint somebody.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
Yeah, Jim, I don't think it's restricted anybody at the city, but I think maybe putting it in annual unless there's an emergency, something.
Yeah, that's correct. You could technically appoint someone outside too, yes.
okay. All right. There was, so this would be number 5. There was a comment in note on 8, I think it's 8.2. It talks about the budget, and supplying, an estimate of what available dollars there will be. Again, this is just, to me, it's a language cleanup. It actually says in the contract that the CVB would estimate what those dollars are. I don't feel comfortable doing that. I think that should be, at the very least, it should be the finance, probably the city's finance committee.
What number was that?
He's got on here, note that 8.2 requires the chamber to provide an estimate into the city, into this budget. And I'm not sure how we would even do that when we don't know what, how tax collections are. And I think with your guys' thorough process on the finance committee, I would assume that estimate should come from the finance committee, not from the chamber.
Just to tell you what I was thinking on that, Jason, that was in your existing contract. It does make more sense for it to be someone from the city. I'm not sure why it was in there. I thought that was something the CVB had requested at some point.
No, those are numbers driven by the city.
Yeah. Okay. And then the last section that we have would be in regard to referencing, obviously, the MOC in the contract. We're requesting that there's a little bit more clarification. If we're talking about the current MOC, then the contract, we would like it to state the Tourism Community Enhancement District Marketing Oversight Committee and not leave it as just an open MOC, which could potentially lead to the creation of another Marketing Oversight Committee that we would have to report to. So we would like it to be referenced as the current existing MOC.
That's pretty simple.
That's all we have. Those are just things that we had clarification on.
So, Alderman, it's time for you to ask any questions. You heard what Jason said, cleaning up these issues, we can move forward. Something I would like to address. Last year this time, budget time, I was trying my darndest to get the rollover monies put to work sooner versus later.
Yeah.
Tried and tried and tried. Talking to Baker Tilly, I'm going to tell you, there is no reason why we can't provide. Here's what I come up with Baker Tilly. I finally got the answer. At the end of the year, when we close our books and get ready for our audit, we have a number in our city books that says this amount is rollover. But we've never been able to say what it is until the end of August. When's our audit?
Yeah. So
No, end of
July,
June.
August,
End of
or
June.
something.
End of June, when our audit is completed, at that time, we can say what the dollar amount is. And so I kept asking, how far off are those dollars? Well, they're pretty much spot on, and they have been forever. So what I'm saying is, at the end of the year, we know pretty darn close what the rollover amount is. So I would like us to have some dialogue where, and we don't want to put the city in a bind, but I'm going to tell you, Jason, in the month of February, we should be able to say in writing, and we may pick like 80% of that number, 75, 80% of what we believe it is, leaving some room, and say, we're committed to these dollars for that particular marketing year. Right? I don't know why, there's no, it drives me nuts not to have those marketing dollars put to use.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I do know that I believe James had put in here, which I did appreciate, starting out with more money. For one, I think he's got in here starting with 75% of the estimated, 3 million. So that would at least start us with more, compared to what we have now. And he's got that essentially being used January to June, and then the remaining 25% plus rollover, following June. I think that all can be in discussion. I also think that we can have a better process for that. So I think when we're putting together budget, I think that we could do a better job of presenting up front. We know we're kind of getting an idea, especially for the last couple of years, where the money is going to be. Well, take COVID out, obviously, but where the money is going to be. We know it's going to be probably somewhere between 3 to 4 million. I think when we present a budget with the beginning awarded amount, we could present at the same time, if we receive $1 million in overage, here's what we'll do with the rollover money. So we can have that discussion from the very beginning and not wait so that we're all on the same page with how that rollover money will be sent. I think we could have a better process with that as well.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I agree.
Marshall?
Jason, how do you feel about the perception that we believe Branson should be one of the most conservative cities in America? How do you feel about that?
I think that doesn't have anything to do with this contract.
So I guess that goes back to my original question. The whole thing of if the citizens want something and it's borne out in an election and that goes against sort of the destination marketing expertise, which one of those wins?
Well, again, we have a process in place with the help of 11 members of a marketing oversight committee where we put together a marketing plan and we put out what that plan, approved upon plan is. Again, that committee has appointees from the city, the county, Indian Point, Stone County, has people from this region on that committee. We all come together with this plan. So it's not about what I think, it's not about what Rachel thinks, it's about what this marketing oversight committee comes together as an agreement in.
I'm confused. I mean, I understand where you're putting it at, but I just don't understand how the opinion of the citizens and the opinion on this board doesn't have anything to do with the contract. Is that to say that we have no input on how it goes forward, how our marketing goes forward in the city of Branson?
I think your question on whether I believe it should be conservative or not has nothing to do with the contract. I didn't say anything about the public.
So that means
The public is represented from the Marketing Oversight Committee, and I believe, in my opinion, that each member of the Marketing Oversight Committee is willing to talk to individuals, because from time to time, they come to those meetings with discussions of saying, we've heard from so-and-so, can we look and have a further discussion about this? It's the same discussion when we went through the whole process of digital advertising versus cable television. It took almost a year to come to that full conversation because of more people wanting it to be on traditional cable versus digital. But through presenting research and through everybody's opinion on it, we came to an agreement. So it's a collaboration with this group. Outside people are willing to share their opinions, but this is ultimately the group that is responsible for making those decisions.
Well, excuse me a second, Marshall. In the contract that we have, paragraph 5.2, it says the contractor shall agree and understand that the city and/or MOC shall have the right to require changes, additions, or additional elaboration to the written plan in order to ensure the objectives laid out in section title Scope of Services are met. The contractor shall proceed upon approval by the Board of Aldermen of the plan, including all projects or activities as obtained. City-approved marketing plans shall then be executed by the contractor. In addition, the marketing plan with the prior positive MOC recommendation and Board of Aldermen approval can be amended from time to time to accommodate changing conditions and/or necessary modifications. So I'm wondering if that's where Marshall's coming from, is he's hearing you say, well, guys, it's really up to the MOC, and I think the contract says it's really up to the MOC and the Board of Aldermen.
I mean, if that.
Do you
yeah,
understand it? I mean, do you understand it
Yeah,
that way?
and I also understand that that is a language change in the current contract where it did go from input to require. So prior, where you guys had input, for instance, when we had discussion about the rollover funds, and you had mentioned about the expanding the co-op marketing program.
Yeah.
We went back to the MOC, and we said that the city would like to expand the co-op marketing program. So we had that discussion there. It was an input, and now I know in the current contract, it's now stating a requirement. If it's stating a requirement, then we don't have an option but to get that approval because it's now a requirement. So again, I'm not trying to fight with the contract. We're just trying to make sure that we're all on the same page.
Sure. But I think that's what Marshall's asking is if for some reasons, community-driven, that the board wants a change. We want to market Ozark Mountain Christmas prominently. If the board comes up with a change, then that's something that you're obligated to do. In fact, I'll find out where it goes. And Jim, I don't know if you could find it quicker, but there's a place in here that talks about veterans, supporting the veterans in downtown, wherever that portion is. I'd like to include the language and Ozark Mountain Christmas.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yes, I'm rolling to that right now. I think it's toward the end of the contract.
Did that answer your question, Marshall?
It does, Mr. Mayor, because I actually pulled it up. And within the proclamation for Ozark Mountain Christmas, it said 5 bullet points. Declare November 1st to January 7th Ozark Mountain Christmas. Encourage the town to support and promote the theme. Require entities which spend tourism tax dollars to promote Ozark Mountain Christmas in all they do. Expedite the use of discretionary funds for emergency marketing of Ozark Mountain Christmas. Support fundraising for short and long-term marketing. So that speaks to a lot more than just kind of a Meltillis Day or a Shoji Tabuchi Day to me. These are actual bullet points that we said we desire to see. So when I say conservative city, that's not me just talking about politics or which channel we watch on TV. That's talking about promoting faith, family, flag, and everything that we do and every message that we send out. And all I'm trying to get is, are we on the same page with this? Because if we're not on the same page, then I don't know how we move forward, really.
Yeah, well, again, so I think when we look at where we're currently at, we have the marketing campaign, which that campaign is Your Vacation Needs Branson. Within that campaign, we promote family fun, outdoor recreation, and then the live entertainment. So that is the approved upon campaign that we are currently operating off of. So if that doesn't fulfill what you're seeking, then I guess I would stand with you and say, I don't know where we go then, because right now, our brand and our campaign is Your Vacation Needs Branson, as approved on by us, by the MOC, by the TCD, and at one point was by this board as well. So that's how we are offered to our currently marketing situation, is Your Vacation Needs Branson. That's the current brand.
I think what Marshall's saying too is, the core values of Branson is faith, family, and flag, and we want to assure that that message doesn't drift, because sometimes things pop up and then it's like, oh my gosh, what is that doing out there? And then it's too late because it's already out there. And I think Michael had a good point too about the Christmas things. I mean, I didn't see a cross or, a choir singing in robes or anything that clearly marks the message that we are faith-driven, and that is the real reason for the season, is the birth of Christ. And I think that's important to have that somewhere in the marketing, that we do celebrate that here in Branson, and because there have been surprises that have popped up in some marketing that we don't need to get into that I didn't approve of, and I got a lot of feedback from citizens that weren't happy about that as well. So, I mean, am I right? We want to assure that those values stay where the community wants it to stay.
So Jason, how do you feel about that?
Again, I can't oversay this. I mean, it's a group of individuals that are appointed to these positions, and we come to this mutual agreement on how the creative is being done.
Okay.
So,
But Jason, it is, and this might be a paradigm shift. I hear you saying, guys, it's the MOC, right? They're appointed, that's who we rely on and that's who we listen to. The contract says we're going to listen to, take direction from the MOC and the Board of Aldermen.
right.
So
yeah.
regardless of what MOC says, the contract says you still have to take direction from this board, not just what MOC says, if it's in contrast to what the board is saying.
So can we have a clarification on this? So if we present to the MOC, if we've got our spring campaign for '23, and we present to the MOC, MOC approves it, we've already gone through the work with Proof, our advertising agency, to come up with all of this creative. It's approved 11-0. It usually is approved 11-0 because everybody at that point has an agreement on what the campaign is going to look like. We bring that campaign to the Board of Aldermen, and the Board of Aldermen say, we don't like that campaign, you need to change it. So we then have to go back, find the money to repay, to change the creative, and basically then at that point what we're going to say is, Marshall, you tell me how you want this advertisement to look, and we make the advertisement look like that. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's a good point. That's a great point.
Mr. Mayor, what I would say in response to that is, it's not a secret how this board or this community feels. You know, in a lot of my campaigns, this kind of discussion was front and center of how I felt music shows should be marketed, how I felt the conservative values should be marketed. It's not a secret. So I just don't agree with the idea that they come to it with kind of a blank slate and say, we're going to say, and it would never be Marshall telling you. It's an entire board decision. I'm just one alderman, you know. So yes, my answer to that would be yes, is that the citizens, by way of the alderman they elect, and in a year and a half, if they don't like what we're doing, then they can elect somebody else. But yes, I do think we should have direct input on it.
Okay, but Jason has a great point because he can't serve two masters.
Right. Larry? So since we're contracting with them, obviously we're the customer. So you're hearing our voice, like you're hearing the community's voice. And, you know, it's you have a fiduciary responsibility because we're representing taxpayers. We're paying you their money, so you know what that voice is. Who in your organization is our seat at the table with that underlying knowingness that, hey, we already know what direction they're looking. How can we make this come together and appeal to the greater and also to the community? I think that, I mean, when you talk about your marketing expertise, I mean, you guys are the creative on that. We're hiring you, we're potentially hiring you to do that for us. We're telling you, we're screaming to you, here's what we want, here's what we want, here's what we want. Execution is what you have to do. I mean, I think you get the pulse of what this board and what the community represents. That's what we want. You know, it's not a matter of us dictating. We don't want to dictate. We want you to be creative with our voice. We're your customer, here's what we want. Any other company went to you and said, here's what I want to promote, you're going to do that for them. Well, you have Branson proper, with the money you're getting from us, but then you also have the TCED, that money. Well, how do you become creative enough to bring that all together and still give us the representation that we're hiring you for? That's what we're asking.
Yeah, and Alderman, I'll be honest, that's where the challenge is, and I believe that's why the forefathers in this matter had aligned this to where we really even wouldn't be having this discussion at the moment, where the city money and TCD money were together as one pot, which was why the MLC was created, so that everybody had input into that. Because now essentially what I'm hearing is we've got, so even if you take the TCD out, or I'm sorry, take the MLC out of it for a moment, we've got direction from the TCD, and we've now got direction from, from the board as well. We've got one MLC that represents the entire community. So now you're trying to say, how do we satisfy members of the TCD as well as members of the city if there are two different ideas that are happening? Do we write two different marketing plans? Do we, are we running in two different directions? And if that's where it's headed, I'd even have to rely on somebody like Bill Skanes, who was part of it from the beginning. If we're headed in a direction where it's actually two different ideas and two different philosophies, then we may have to bow out of this because I can't pay my staff from the money from the city. And so if we're running a separate marketing campaign for the city than what we run with the TCD, our focus will become on the TCD. I don't know how to make this work in this conversation. When I started here 2 years ago, it was a situation where everything was lumped together, and now it's becoming almost segregated in how we're doing these pots of money. Alderman, I can't answer your question because if you don't align with what the TCD wants, how do we make that happen?
So, and I just say to you, like, we have a responsibility to the taxpayers of the people in the yellow. Like,
Right.
City proper, and we're just trying to find out, like, how do we make that happen? It's not a matter of going different directions. It's how creative are you to bring all of that together and still get the message that Branson is that faith, family, flag community?
Yeah, and I mean, I can only rely on the numbers that are at play, and with our numbers growing, I feel like the CVB and the MLC has been doing a good job of that. But obviously, we can't please everybody. You can never please everybody in destination marketing, and I think that's where we're at a current impasse, is how do we make, that happen? Because we also have, a district that represents a greater region, but by contract, the businesses that fall inside the TC district actually don't pay to the TCD district because of the whole 25% buy down per dollar. So the TCD money really exists outside the city of Branson limits because the city of Branson collects the tourism tax on the inside, which majority of that is paid for by the visitor, not by the resident, except for the half a penny that's in the restaurants or if you go to an attraction, but residents aren't paying it while they stay, the 4% while they stay in a hotel. There's just so many differences, and that's why I applaud those in the beginning that put this together, because they realized this needed to be basically one group to make this happen, and now it's being pulled apart. And so I want to do the best I can. I came here tonight, again, we came here to have a clarification discussion so that we can move forward. We want everybody to be successful, and I don't know how to do that if we're headed in two different directions. And I know you just said we're not, but if what this board is believing needs to be the focus of it, and the TCD and the MLC don't believe that should be the focus of it, how do we make that happen? Because then it becomes almost running two separate marketing campaigns.
Public comment.
Yeah, we cut off public comment, Bill.
Jason, what are you hearing from us that you think is sort of automatically in direct conflict with what the TCED or MOC will propose?
I mean, in all honesty, Alderman, I think it probably needs to be a further discussion to hear. I mean, I'm hearing what you're saying in regard to faith, family, fun, flag, foliage. I'm hearing you say that. We've had those discussions on the marketing side, and does that resonate with all of our visitors? And I guess that's what we have to determine. I understand the public, but the public isn't the visitors as well. Are we going to alienate visitors? We're trying to grow a base, and if we're putting out a specific image that certain visitors don't like, are we just saying we don't want them here? That's why you tend to not put certain identities into your marketing. You focus more on product-based marketing so that people understand what your destination has to offer. And that being the family fun with the amusements and the attractions, live entertainment with the shows, and then outdoor recreation with the lakes and the mountain biking that we now have and that sort of thing. You focus more on what calls to them is what they want to see and do at a vacation spot, and not necessarily what the belief of a city is. That's just typically how you fall into, that line with destination marketing. Now, there are ways that you can also offset that. So meetings and conventions, for instance, when we were actually just at Connect Faith in Little Rock, Arkansas, that conversation is different. That conversation with the salespeople, because we know that the clientele that was at that meeting is there to hear about, how could their religious conference be a great experience in Branson? That's where we're selling that message. But does that message need to be broadcasted to everybody when we're trying to grow visitation? I don't know.
I think that's what draws people here is the beliefs of this city. I think they come here because they know we're faith, family, and flag. And they want to escape the places that they are. I mean, daily I get people from California, oh my God, we heard about Branson. It's what a relief to come here and hear you people applauding the veterans and supporting God and singing gospel songs. I mean, that is the creative faith, family, flag in my mind. That's why that's the draw. I don't think that's something we should shy away from. I think that should be on the front headlines, in my opinion.
And I'm not saying shy away from it. What I'm saying is when you want to be an all-inclusive destination, are you saying we shouldn't be? And we should only focus on those people that want to come here for that reason?
Well,
I mean, it's okay to answer honestly.
no, I think that should be on every. I think there's nothing wrong with having that on every headline.
So then alienate for those that don't want to come here for that reason. I mean, I was hired to grow visitation. Visitation is people that want to come here to spend money, not come here just for faith, family, fun, fall foliage.
Well, I think promoting Gay Pride Month was a stretch.
For you, I mean, I'm a born-again Christian, and I was okay because it's my job.
Yeah. Well, that's not our core values.
And what did I tell you, Alderman? I told you that we wouldn't do it because it wasn't a part of the marketing
No,
plan.
I know, and I think.
I mean, if you're going to call me out, make sure you do the whole statement, because I did say we wouldn't do it again if it
And
wasn't
again,
part
this
of the
comes
marketing
back to
plan.
what I said. This is why we want this to be. We want to head it off before it happens. And
Which is-
that's
which
where
is-
the input comes in.
Which is why we have agreed with the MOC that when we put together our marketing plan, it would be agreed upon by all.
Yeah, and Jason, that term inclusivity, I think it's a national buzzword. I think all kinds of people have always been welcome in this community, from entertainers that we've had, from employees of both this gentleman and this gentleman right here. We've always been an inclusive city. The citizens, let's just go knock on door to door and say, what kind of place do you want to be? Do you want to be all-inclusive to fitting in with the new PC America that every other place is going, or do we want to be this bastion? Yes, different from these other places. I mean, what if your survey said a casino would be great here? And what if a casino would send tax revenues through the roof? Would we just say that and say, citizens, you don't really know, it's more about the visitors and being all-inclusive? I mean, there are values that they're not really controversial, and it's not like half the town feels this way and half the town feels the other way. They're pretty concrete in what this community is, I mean.
I could debate that. I have a lot of conversations with this community that don't believe in what you're saying. But we're getting way off contract.
I talked to some employees that
Mayor,
are
are
from
we
that.
done with this contract discussion?
Wow.
We may be done with this discussion, but I think it's raised a lot of other questions. You bring up a great point of what do we do with, if there's a difference with MOC and the board? I know one thing I know what you're hearing from this board. And I want to remind you, when you're in your TCD meetings, please stop saying, Larry Milton said this, and Larry Milton said that. I wanted you to hear, this isn't coming from Larry Milton. Are you hearing with your own ears? Okay. So it's important for me to say, when I say the board says these things, and you translate it, Larry Milton wants to do this. That's not fair. So tonight, if you would change and say, Larry's not the only crazy one. Hell, the whole board's crazy. That's fair. Okay? So, but you raised a great point. If the board feels a certain way and MOC doesn't, that is not fair for you to be in the middle of that, right? So I believe that needs further discussion.
Jason, can you clarify how the MOC is appointed?
Yeah, you guys have appointments from, I think it's 5? No, isn't it 5 MOC from the city?
No way. If it was 5 from MOC from the city, we'd all get along. How many MOC members are there?
Oh, that's right, they just do the.
There's
application.
11
Yeah,
total?
Yeah, that's, yeah.
And how many, are there any appointed by the city? None.
That's
So
correct.
there's
I
none.
misspoke.
I would love to have
They
appointed.
do an application process for the MOC.
I would love to have an appointees, and maybe that's one of the areas we can talk about. So we don't have this big division, as if there was some appointed members of I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, that would have to be a discussion with the TCD board, because we don't control that.
Okay,
In fact, we have input into, who, we can, when we review the MOC applications, we can provide input, but then it's the TCD board that actually appoints them,
so
not
then
us.
maybe the TCD board and the Board of Aldermen need to get
Have a
together and
conversation.
say, how can we resolve this?
Yeah.
Okay. Any closing statements? And if there are, make them short.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say on that is I feel that we do have a really solid input on the makeup of the TCED board, and I'd like to see that relationship strengthen.
Yeah, I think, and I know that from the board members, I think there is more things that we can do contractually to try to make it so that it's more unison. And again, if there's a way that even in that unifying, contract or however you want to call it, going back to the original with the geographical boundaries, we find a way to, just from a billing standpoint, even, remove those out. I think there's ways that we can, definitely make that happen. And I know the TCD would like to have, actually, let me rephrase that. I can't speak on their behalf. I know certain members of the TCD board would like to have conversations with the city and maybe how we can, how do we bring this together?
Yep. Kathy, would you set up that meeting, please? Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Jason, I appreciate your time and sharing this. I really wanted to have an open discussion. I didn't want any pointing the fingers and all that. I just wanted to work this through, get rowing the boat the same way, get the marketing dollars out as soon as possible, and hold hands. This community has so much to offer, so much. So I look forward to continuing these.
Yeah, no, and I think we have, may not seem like it, but I think we have a shared vision in what the ultimate goal is. And, increasing visitation and increasing tax collections. How do we make that happen?
Sure.
I think that's where the shared vision comes together.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion to adjourn this special meeting?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Can we
Ayes have it.
open up the mic, please? Alderman.
Hi, Ruth.
Oh, Ruth is there.
Hi.
Hi, did you agree to adjourn the meeting?
Yes, I did.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you have any comment?
Oh, Ruth. Oh, yeah.
Never mind.
Oh, crap. I forgot she was, Ruth, can you hear me?
I have one small comment. Product-based marketing that Jason brought up. I feel that our product is our values. And I feel we need to be transparent, not hypocritical. We need to be a city that is who we say we are. And our values need to be represented as well. People should come here knowing what to expect. I want to go visit places where I know that I'm going to get the best value for my vacation. And I don't believe it's closing anyone out. I think it's actually opening it up for
Ruth,
more people to.
Ruth, I feel so bad that the whole room didn't get to hear your comments.
But it was recorded.
That's okay.
Is that on recording? Yeah.
Oh, good. So it is recorded.
Totally agree, Ruth. Thank you for your comment.
Ruth, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Gosh, I forgot.
Meeting adjourned.
That would have been good stuff.
That was awesome.